All right, and here is a Chapter 5 review from the practice test with me, Mr. Hain. All right, so a note to anyone on YouTube, this goes directly with a worksheet from my classroom. So if you don't have my worksheet, it actually doesn't make sense at all. I mean, there might be some things that you can get from it, but if you don't have your practice test for Chapter 5 in front of you, you're doing this wrong. You got to make sure you have that test in front of you, but ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go question by question through that practice test with some comments. There might be some redrawn drawings on my screen. However, all of the questions themselves are on yours. All right, on the test in front of you. Let's go. All right, so this is number one. Number one has a lot of extraneous information. And by extraneous, I mean extra. But the real thing that you need to look at for number one is just angle X. Is it acute or obtuse? And here we see that angle X is wider than 90 degrees. It is larger than 90, which means it is absolutely obtuse. There is only one angle on this shape that is also obtuse that has that measurement. And that in this case is 118 degrees. 62 is obviously not obtuse because it is less than 90. So X is obtuse, 118 degrees is obtuse, and therefore X is equal to 118. All right. Number two. Okay, so if you look at the diagram for number two, you have a set of parallel lines. And really, we're just going to examine each of these answers. And my comment here for number two is you need to choose a pair in your answers where one is obtuse and one is acute. And because if you look at angle or choice A on your practice test, you'll see that both are obtuse, which means they're equal. So it can't be A. And if you look at choice B, angle 3 and angle 5, well, they're both obtuse. So it can't be B. So then that leads you to C, and angle 4 and angle 6, well, they're both acute, which means they're also both equal to each other. It cannot be C, which leaves us with choice D, which is angle 2 and angle 5. One is acute and one is obtuse, which means it has to be answer choice D. For number three, they give you a diagram, and this diagram tells you a lot. They don't really give you any information. They give you some equations for 1 and 2, but really that doesn't matter. Let's just take a look at this diagram. We know one thing. This indicator here for angle 3 means that angle 3 is equal to 90 degrees. We also know that angle 1 and angle 2, when they add to angle 3, make a straight line, which means all of them together have to make 180. With that in mind, let's take a look at the answer choices. And it can't be A because we don't know for sure if angle 1 is equal to angle 2, so no. For choice B, we can't know for sure what the measurement for angle 2 is, so no. Some people might look at the drawing and say, hey, angle 2 looks a little bit thinner, so it has to be less than 45. If you want to go that deep, sure. I want to look at choice D, though. It says angle 1 plus angle 2 is equal to 180, which would be a complete straight line. And we see in this diagram that angle 1 plus angle 2 make a right angle, which is not a straight line, so it cannot be D. In fact, they have to equal 90 degrees, as noted at the beginning of this question, because 1, 2, and 3 together, when added, make 180. So that's number 3. All right, so I don't know why Rini likes drawing pictures of right triangles in the sand, but she does. And the problem gives us some information. It tells us the hypotenuse is equal to 24 inches. It also tells us that the one of the legs is equal to 12. So we don't know the other leg. So in order to find the distance for the other leg, I'm going to use a modified version of the Pythagorean theorem. So when solving for a leg, I subtract the known leg from the hypotenuse. So I'm just going to plug the numbers in here. 24 is my hypotenuse. 12 is my B leg. Square them, square root them, and the answer is 20.8. All of the purple or pink and blue occur directly inside my calculator. So don't stress about it. Use a calculator. That's number 4. So moving on to number 5, again, this is a drawing that has a lot of extra information, but the key point here is that angle 6 and angle 2 are both acute. And if they are both acute, that means that angle 6 is equal to 75 degrees because they give you the measure of angle 2. Booyah. So number 6, we have a triangle. And that triangle has 3 angles. And they're all interior angles. So we know that if we add up all of the interior angles for a triangle, they got to add to equal 180. So I'm literally going to add them to equal 180 degrees. This is the first one, 65, 75, and 2x. Well, I can combine these to make 140 because they're like terms. And I can subtract the 140 from each side to isolate the variable, dividing by 2. So x does equal 20. Sweet. All right, moving on. We got number 7. George loves his balloon, and he has some information about it. And again, here, just like the Rini problem, who draws in the sand, we know that x, or the unknown side, is a leg. So I use the same formula. I subtract my known leg from the hypotenuse. The square of the unknown leg from the square of the hypotenuse. Substituting in, we take the square root, and it is 51.2 yards. Again, all of the pink and the blue is done inside of the calculator. Don't stress, use a calculator. So for number 8, we are given a lot of information on a triangle, but the key piece here is that the external angle is 62. So if I'm given that the external angle is 62, that means the sum of the 2 remote interior angles must be equal to the external angle. All right, so x, which is this internal angle, and x plus 14 is right here. So we add those together to get 62. I combine the like terms to get 2x, isolate the variable, divide by the coefficient, and x is equal to 24. That's number 8. So moving on to number 9, we know that the rectangle is the shape of the living room for this question. We're given the dimensions of that living room. One side is 21 and the other is 14, and we're asked to find the length of the diagonal. So when we draw the diagram, we see that we've actually constructed 2 right triangles. And I'm asked to find the length of the diagonal side, which is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to use the old school Pythagorean theorem, substitute my a and b, square root, and it is absolutely 25.2 feet. Final question is a distance formula question. And ladies and gentlemen, this entire question is won or lost in just setting up the equation. Everything else is done in your calculator. So I like to put my x2, y2 in the first point because I'm reading from left to right, and my x1, y1 in my second point because, again, I'm reading from left to right. And that's the order it goes in my equation, 2, 1, and y2 and y1. Substituting in my x2, which is -4, minus my x1, which is 10, -4 minus 10 squared, plus my y2, which is 6, minus, because that's in the equation, my y1, which is -5. Simplifying in our calculator, we have the square root of -14 squared plus 11 squared, which is, of course, 317, and the square root of 317 is 17.8. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're just watching this on my YouTube channel, this doesn't make any sense to you unless you actually have my Chapter 5 test review. For that, I apologize. If you are one of my students and you are watching this, go back through. Pause at each question. Work them out on your own. Use the video to double check your work. It's kind of like if I was trying to learn how to do, like, I don't know, a kickflip finger trick or something like that on my skateboard, and I was watching over and over again. I'd want to see exactly how to do it over and over again before I do it. Or if I was learning how to do, I don't know, some drum solo, I would watch that part of that solo over and over again, just the same way. Watch this part of the video over and over again to review that question so you understand how to do it. Then go back into your notes to that section, redo those questions that can help you out, and then you are truly studying for the test that is coming up soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, study hard and keep doing the math.